You hear it before you think about it, that sharp, metallic ring-ding-ding echoing through a narrow forest trail, bouncing off trees like it's alive. The air is thick with burnt two-stroke oil. Not unpleasant, familiar, mixed with damp soil, crushed leaves, and cold morning wind that cuts through your jacket like it doesn't care how fast you're going. For a moment, everything collapses into something older than memory and newer than nostalgia. It feels like the 1970s again. Back when the Kawasaki KE 175 wasn't a concept, a rumor, or a forum debate, but a real machine you could start with a kick, stall in the wrong gear, fix with basic tools, and still trust to carry you deeper into the trail than you probably should have gone. Lightweight, mechanical, honest. A bike that didn't pretend to be anything other than what it was. And that's exactly why the 2026 Kawasaki KE 175 has become such a loud conversation. Because people aren't just reacting to a motorcycle idea. They're reacting to a memory trying to come back in a world that no longer runs on the same rules. But here's where reality interrupts the nostalgia. Because the modern concept art floating around, especially across enthusiast spaces like the Acer Rider community, has sparked as much frustration as excitement. And not without reason. Let's talk about the obvious issue: mechanical inconsistency. Some renders show dual exhaust systems on what is clearly intended to be a single-cylinder platform. That's not retro-modern interpretation. That's a breakdown in mechanical logic. The original KE 175 heritage was never about exaggerated styling cues or artificial complexity. It was about functional simplicity. One cylinder, one exhaust path, a design you could understand just by looking at it. When that gets lost, the identity gets diluted. And the Acer Rider community has been clear about this. If Kawasaki brings the KE 175 back, it has to respect mechanical realism first. Everything else comes after. So if we strip away the noise, what should a true 2026 KE 175 actually be? Start with the engine, a single-cylinder fuel-injected unit. Not because carburetors are bad, but because modern riders expect consistency in cold starts, altitude changes, and long-distance reliability. Fuel injection doesn't erase character, it stabilizes it. It lets the engine behave predictably when the environment isn't predictable. But, and this is important, it should still feel like a single-cylinder Kawasaki, direct, vibrating, mechanical enough that you're always aware you're riding something alive. Then comes weight. This is non-negotiable. Under 130 kilograms wet, anything heavier and it stops being a KE 175 and becomes a diluted interpretation of it. The original's magic wasn't power, it was how effortlessly it moved under you. You didn't handle the bike, you guided it. That sensation only exists when mass is minimal and geometry is honest. Now the exhaust. A high-mounted exhaust makes sense, but not for styling. For survival, for clearance over rocks, roots, and river crossings. It should sit high and tight, integrated into the frame without pretending to be something it's not. Functional design, not aesthetic exaggeration. And this is where the retro-modern philosophy either succeeds or collapses. Because retro-modern doesn't mean adding old shapes on a new technology. It means asking a harder question. What did the original solve well, and how do we preserve that solution while updating everything around it? That's where the debate inside the rider community becomes real. One side argues for absolute mechanical purity. No ABS, no ride-by-wire, no traction control. Just a throttle cable, a fuel system, and the rider's skill. They want kickstart nostalgia, even if it means occasional frustration. They want a machine that demands involvement, not convenience. The other side sees things differently. They want ABS, not to sanitize the ride, but to protect it. Because trail riding today isn't just open dirt paths and predictable terrain. It's steep descents, mixed surfaces, weather changes, and longer rides further from help. They want LED lighting not because it looks modern, but because it actually lets them see where they're going when the sun disappears behind the trees. They want fuel injection not as a luxury, but as reliability insurance. And both perspectives come from respect for the same idea. The KE 175 should never leave you stranded in spirit or in reality. This is the tension Kawasaki has to navigate. Because the KE175 name doesn't belong to one era anymore. It belongs to multiple generations of riders who experienced it differently. Some remember it as their first real trail bike, simple, slightly unpredictable, and unforgettable. Others know it only through stories, forum posts, and grainy photos of machines that look too light to be real. Now, those two groups are converging on the same question. If it comes back, what should it be? And more importantly, what should it refuse to become? Should it stay as close to its mechanical roots as possible, even if that limits its modern usability? Or should it evolve just enough to survive in today's riding environment, even if that means losing a bit of its raw edge? There's no clean answer here because the KE175 was never a clean machine. It was a lived experience, a tool of exploration, a little unpredictable, a little fragile, but endlessly capable in the right hands. That's why this revival idea carries so much weight, because it isn't just about Kawasaki reintroducing a model. It's about whether the philosophy behind lightweight dual sport riding still matters in a world of heavier, more complex machines. And if it does, how far you can modernize it before it stops being that philosophy. So when the 2026 KE175 conversation reaches its final form, it won't be settled by specs alone. It will be settled by intent. Do you build a machine that remembers exactly where it came from? Or do you build one that ensures it can still exist where it's going? Either way, the result won't just be a motorcycle. It'll be a statement. And that's why this matters more than nostalgia. Because for the riders who grew up on the original, and the ones who wish they had, the KE175 isn't just a name coming back. It's a bridge between eras, waiting to be either preserved in its purest form or rebuilt into something strong enough to carry its legacy forward. And when it finally rolls out of the showroom, kickstand down, engine cold, waiting for that first start, every rider will know exactly which side of that debate they're on.